I noticed that Brooklyn Bowl Nashville was not participating in LiveNation's On the Road Again initiative. I'm curious why Brooklyn Bowl it was not participating in this initiative. Do you take merch cuts?
We do. 15% on soft. As for venues, we don't make a lot of the ticket revenue. A lot of that goes to the artist. And so merch is another way where we can get some revenue in.
Do you think it's ethical to keep 15% of the artist's merch and not give a percentage of your F&B to the artist that is filling your venue with their fans? What's going on? Welcome to the New Music Business. I'm your host, Ari Herstand, author of How to Make It in the New Music Business. The book, third edition, is out now everywhere in all formats, audiobook, ebook, hardcover, however you consume books, you can find it out. Today, my guest is Sara Barnett. She is the general manager of Brooklyn Bowl Nashville. Brooklyn Bowl has now 4 locations. Williamsburg, Brooklyn is their original location. We have Las Vegas, we have Philly, and we actually had Paul Bacher from the Philly location on the show previously. And now Nashville. It's been open for about 2.5 years now in Nashville. And since opening, they've hosted acts like Elvis Costello and Billy Gibbons, Phil Lesh, Leon Bridges, Lainey Wilson, Baby Keem, so many more. And in 2022 at the Pollstar Awards, they were named the best new concert venue. They're a 1,200 cap room. And through this conversation, we talk about how they balance supporting the local Nashville music community, the difference between local shows versus touring shows, the difference between what the Broadway scene is, if you've ever been to Nashville and you go down the strip on Broadway, and what kind of these other music venues are like, and how Nashville is not just a town for country, and how there's a lot of local artists and local music that's not country, and what that all means. We also get into merch cuts and kind of how the fee structure works at a venue like, at specifically Brooklyn Bowl Nashville. Now, Brooklyn Bowl is part owned by LiveNation. They're not completely owned. They still, LiveNation owns a minority stake in Brooklyn Bowl. They did not participate in the On the Road Again initiative, which I bring up and discuss with Sara. We get into that. That's where LiveNation did away with merch cuts. So we talk about merch cuts. Brooklyn Bowl Nashville does take a merch cut. They are a small to mid-level venue, and she discusses the practice and why they're taking a merch cut, and just kind of how all the other fees break down there and what fees are and the deal structures and all of that. So it's a fascinating conversation if you're into the live music space. You can find all of us that make the show happen at Ari's Take on Instagram, TikTok, X, and Threads. You can find me at Ari Herstand on Instagram. Visit aristake.com. Get on the email list. That's where you're going to find the most up-to-date, relevant information. We ping you every time we got an episode and other important stuff in the new music business. But right now, if you could just pause the episode, hit that subscribe, hit that follow button, however you're listening to this. Leave us a 5-star review on Spotify and Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening to this. Give us a thumbs up on YouTube. And if you want us to keep doing this and stick in your feed. All right, let's kick into the show. Sara Barnett, welcome to the show.
Hi, Ari. Thanks for having me.
Hello. I'm assuming you're in Nashville, is that right?
Yes, I am sitting in my office at Brooklyn Bowl in Nashville, Tennessee.
And you're from there, right? You're born and raised?
Yeah, well, I'm from small town Tennessee, a place called Tullahoma. It's south of here, about an hour. But I've lived in Nashville almost 20 years, so I like to count it.
Nice. Yeah, nice. So tell me about your current role at Brooklyn Bowl, and also just like give us a little history on Brooklyn Bowl, because I think it's the newest of the Brooklyn Bowl locations. We had Paul Bacher out of the Brooklyn Bowl Philly location, who started at the Brooklyn one. Mm-hmm. So I'm, curious what's going on with the one in Nashville and what your involvement is.
Sure. I'm the general manager. So really anything that falls under our roof is my responsibility. As far as like the restaurant, we have bowling, we have shows. That's what we do is shows, and so really all of it is me. I mean, I have an amazing team, of course, but that's what I do. I just generally manage them and make sure that everything happens the way it's supposed to. Not Brooklyn Bowl is Nashville is the third location. So Williamsburg, they opened in 2009. Then they opened a location in Vegas in 2014. Nashville was scheduled to open March 2020. March 14th, to be exact, was our grand opening party. We invited like 4,000 people. Our capacity is only 1,200. There was still a little bit of construction going on. We still weren't sure that our POS systems were going to work. So it was very much nerve-wracking to be able to pull that off. And like the Thursday before that grand opening party, we all got in a room and said, hey, do we want to open tomorrow or should we delay this? And so we delayed it, and that was definitely the best call at that time. Then we officially reopened, fully opened in July 2021. So that was our opening.
Okay.
Then there's one more. Philly, they opened in the fall of 2021 as well.
Oh, okay, so they came after you. Gotcha.
Yep.
Cool. Nice. And you've been in kind of live entertainment and management of these locations for a little while. I guess you were at ACME Feed Seed before this?
Yes, it's a honky tonk downtown in Nashville. My experience is in hospitality and food and beverage, and I naturally was just good at it. When I started doing it when I was 20 years old, or maybe even younger. And then I kind of just eventually was lucky enough to work my way up into working in a honky tonk where we had live shows, and it was multiple levels and some kind of chaotic, and just to be able to see all of that chaos happening at once and being able to manage that it's fun. It's fun.
I mean, yeah. So for the people that aren't familiar with Nashville's downtown, or what the Broadway strip is, and even what a honky tonk means, can you give just a very brief glimpse into what Broadway Nashville is?
It's a mess. There used to be small little divey bars on Broadway, on our strip, where you could walk in and see a live show at any time of the day. And that's still the case, but they're not small and divey anymore. They're huge and multi-levels and owned by huge country stars, most of them now. So that's kind of changed a little bit, but there's still a few places where you can go in and get a fried bologna sandwich and see an old like country band, playing lap steel and fiddles and stuff like that. So yeah, I would say that's a honky tonk.
Okay, but Broadway in general now, right? I mean, when I was there last time, I mean, I've been to Nashville a bunch. It's kind of like, for a few blocks, it's the strip where every bar is a venue with music from, correct me if I'm wrong, it seems to me like noon to 2 a.m. or something like that. And during the daytimes, you might have some songwriter rounds. They're like multi-stories. I know there's a few venues that might have multiple shows happening simultaneously on different levels, rooftops, and it's, like you said, it's pretty crazy. I mean, it's a shit show. It's on the weekends at night. I mean, it's wild. It's packed. It's tourists. It's bachelorette parties and just wild and crazy. But it's by and large country music. It's straight up. It seems like for the musicians that I've spoken to that play Broadway, it's kind of like. It's the same 70 songs in rotation at pretty much every single establishment.
Yes.
They're all country cover songs. They're all country songs, with the exceptions of maybe a few of the honky tonks, which are the more traditional throwback, old school country, Hank Williams and the like. But most of them are the current hits of today's country. And if you're a musician and you can learn those 70 songs, you could play 2 to 3 to 4 shows a day, a night, and make a few $100. And that's kind of a gigging musician's life on Broadway in Nashville. And then sometimes they'll get, a tour. They get known, and they're all monster players, and maybe they'll go out with a country star or something like that, and they work their way up. How was my description? Is that pretty close?
That was perfect. Good job.
Thanks. Thanks. That's my personal experience there. And just from speaking to the musicians of Nashville. So was ACME like one of those kind of establishments, or is it a throwback honky tonk with like old school music?
It was a little different. When we opened in 2014, there wasn't really anything like it at the time. We were one of the first rooftop bars. And the talent buyer then at ACME is actually our production manager at Brooklyn Bowl Nashville now. So it is a little bit of a small world, but we would book everything from a Grateful Dead cover band on Monday nights to maybe some like soul music on Wednesdays. And then we would do like funk night on Thursdays. So it was definitely trying to be a little bit different. They also have a radio station there too. So, and they do a lot of indie music out of that, and a lot of local stuff. So it's a cool place. I'm still proud to say that I work there for sure.
Cool. So tell me about, so there are music venues in Nashville that are not on Broadway, that are not just for country cover bands, and Brooklyn Bowl is one of them. I think you mentioned before it's a 1,200 cap room.
Yes, 1,200.
And this is primarily touring acts. I mean, I saw on your calendar coming up, you have like Tour de Cinema Club, Joywave, Big Frida, Magic City Hippies, Indigo D'Souza, Saint Motel. These are kind of the indie bands of, that are hot right now. And when they come through Nashville, this is one of the spots, one of the venues of Nashville that you play. So can you just break down a little bit, just how artists and agents, I guess, approach the venues of Nashville, and I guess working at Brooklyn Bowl specifically, of this level of a room, like a 1,200 cap room. What's the landscape like of Nashville, and when artists are kind of planning their tour stops, what does it look like?
Well, we do have some competitors that are similar in size. We have Marathon Music Works. It's a little bit bigger. I think they're 2,000 cap. There was Cannery Ballroom that closed earlier this year, but I hear they're planning to reopen, and they are definitely about the same size as us. So, I think that when they're touring and they're looking for a place to play, I think it's just hopefully, they will come back to Brooklyn Bowl, once they played here before. We try to take care of our guests and artists alike, and just be really hospitable and have the best light and sounds, and try to be super professional so that they will come back here. We are lucky enough also at Brooklyn Bowl to be a joint venture with LiveNation. So the bookers that are booking for LiveNation in the Southeast, they also book our room, and they also book a lot of the rooms in Nashville at the other venues that are, smaller. Okay. So I think that's helpful too.
Can you explain what a joint venture means with LiveNation?
Sure. It means that we get to still stay Brooklyn Bowl with the benefit of having a huge corporation, backing us up. Peter Shapiro and Charlie Ryan are still the co-owners of Brooklyn Bowl. They're in charge, and their vision is what I'm doing my best to make sure happens. But we do have LiveNation there for support.
Okay, that's interesting to me. I'm not super. I guess understand completely the structure, because I know that LiveNation owns some rooms. They promote in some rooms that they might not own, but I've never heard, frankly, what this joint venture thing. I don't know how deep you can go with me on it, but I don't quite understand.
It's just, they have some ownership in the company. I think that's the easiest way to
Okay.
describe that.
So when you said that Peter and Ryan, they're the owners, there's multiple owners. So they're the ones that kind of own, I guess, the biggest share, and they
Yes.
sold off a piece of the venue to LiveNation. And then with that, when you say we're lucky enough to have the support, what does that mean? So you have some of their talent buyers. What else does it mean?
Marketing. They help us with the marketing.
Okay.
And really benefits of like protocol, like systems and POS and reporting and things like that smaller companies maybe not wouldn't have. So they have those systems in place.
Yeah. I noticed that Brooklyn Bowl Nashville was not participating in LiveNation's On the Road Again initiative, where the venues, there was for people that aren't familiar with it, earlier a few months ago, LiveNation rolled out their On the Road initiative, where they were going to guarantee every artist every night on the bill $1,500 in cash and gas credits. Typically, I've heard it's about 50-50, like $750 in cash and $750 in gas, and that's even to the openers. And it was and they were most famously doing away with merch cuts, which was wildly applauded in the live music community, because merch cuts, frankly, in my opinion and pretty much everyone's opinion, are unethical. And I think I'm curious why Brooklyn Bowl it was not participating in this initiative.
That was not a program that does Brooklyn Bowl we were a part of. That was solely LiveNation. So.
Oh, so that's where I'm confused,
Yeah.
because I guess I thought you were a LiveNation. So you're not a LiveNation venue. They just are. So you weren't eligible or whatever. Okay, because this is the inner workings. That's just like, okay, I know the Echo in LA is a LiveNation venue, but I don't know what that means.
Right.
Do they own 100%? Do they own 30%? And there's like all these venues that are participating in that program, which maybe they're the one. Do you have any more insight in it? Do you know if they're the ones that LiveNation owns 100% of, or were there any other joint ventures that were part of that?
I'm not sure about those, and I think maybe the ones they are fully owners of, the Echo, for example, maybe that was it. But no, as far as the joint venture, that's just not something that we participated in or eligible for.
I gotcha. Now that I already gave you my opinion on it, it's a little tainted, but do you take merch cuts?
We do 15% on soft.
And tell me the reasoning.
0.
15%?
Yeah, 0 hard.
Mm-hmm. And tell me the reasoning behind that.
Well, it's just another way to make revenue. Unfortunately, as for venues, we don't make a lot of the ticket revenue. A lot of that goes to the artists. We are fortunate here to have a restaurant where we can sell food, but also we make bar sales, and that is fully ours. But we do not make a whole lot of profit when it comes to ticket sales. And so merch is another way where we can get some revenue in.
Do you think it's ethical to keep 15% of the artist's merch and not give a percentage of your F&B to the artist that is filling your venue with their fans?
Well, we give them, the deal that's made with the artist, the deal was made with the agent and the booker ahead of time, and hopefully they can make a fair deal for them so that they're getting, their fair share of the ticket revenue. So.
Right, but you also keep fees. The fees are not passed on to the artist. The fees go to the venue and the promoter. And they go to the venue and the ticketing company, but the fees do not go to the artist. The fees are going to the venue and the ticketing platform. And so it's not super transparent when, you said the majority of the revenue, the ticketing revenue, goes to the artist, because that's when you look at it and there's a deal memo or a settlement form that says, oh, the artist got 80% of tickets, that's not actually accurate when you really break down what the fan paid. Because if the fees, it's no secret that there's a tremendous amount of fees tacked on to every ticket that the fan actually pays. So if there's a $20 ticket list, the fan might actually be paying $35 or $40 or something like that, and the artist is not getting 80% of the $40. They're getting 80% of the face value. And, I wrote about this in one of my variety pieces. It's impossible for the fan to pay the face value ticket, which is, I think, somewhat kind of weird to me, because it's like I went to the Wiltern here in LA to the box office. I walked up and it was, the show was $25, and I'm like, okay, I would like to buy one ticket. They're like, oh, it'll be, $42. I'm like, what do you mean? I have them right here. They're like, oh, it's fees. I'm like, well, how do I not pay the fees? Like, you can't. You have to pay the fees. I'm like, but so I don't, so like that's. Like, I'd love to hear your perspective and to comment on that, because they're not getting all that money.
Even when you were buying from the box office, they had fees? We don't.
I was literally physically standing at the box office. It's a LiveNation venue. And I'm like, I would like to pay the face value ticket. They're like, you can't. You have to pay all the fees. But I'm like, I'm right here at the physical box office. And I had to pay the fees.
The only fee we have at our box office is $3, and that's it. But it is just the if the ticket's $25, you pay $28 at our box office. So maybe that's
if you buy it in person.
Yes.
Okay.
Through Ticketmaster, it is going to be. You will have to pay the fees for sure.
Okay, so you still do have fees. Yes. It's just $3. But I guess my question would be: do you share those $3 with the artist, or do you keep that?
We do keep that. That is for the venue. Yes.
And then when you do the settlement forms, is that the $3 are not counted in that settlement form?
They are not.
Right. Okay. So I guess, it's and this is just kind of the conversation that a lot of the artists and the agents and the venues and the promoters and the tour buyers are having. I'm sure you've been following it very closely. I know it's hard to run a venue, but you're not an independent venue. You're a joint venture with LiveNation. And there's been a lot of commentary from NIVA, the National Independent Venue Association, that they said it's really hard to run an independent venue, and they were not fans of what LiveNation was doing on the road initiative, because they're like, this is not a level playing field anymore. We can't afford to compete with venues that are going to be paying every artist on the bill $1,500 on top of what they were making on the settlement, which I can empathize with, but I'm on the artist side. Like, they're going to have to fight that own fight themselves, and so like I'm curious why. It's as an artist, it's really, really hard to tour. And when Clyde Lawrence testified in front of Congress and broke down all of the fees, like, none of the expenses are really, touring artists' expenses are being covered by the majority of venues out there. That was one of the reasons that LiveNation did this initiative, was to help cover some of the touring artists' expenses. The venues seem to be able to write off all of their expenses, take the fees, keep the bar, keep the food, keep all of that, and take some of the artist merch, And so it's like, when it comes to that, a lot of artists are like, I can't afford to tour anymore, and it's just not profitable. And I'm curious where you come out on that.
I thought it's a really, really difficult question to answer. I don't think that there is any, when it comes to the venues or the artist, it can't be it's us versus them kind of mentality. And I really, really, really hope that we, Brooklyn Bowl as a company, taking LiveNation out of that we have good relationships with the artists that we do. And I know that Pete Shapiro, our owner, who is a promoter, and that's how he came up, and has amazing relationships with artists, that he really, really wants to take care of people. And that's what it is. Like, we try to hold on to that, even if we are a joint venture. It is a tough spot for all of us, I think, and to maybe try to find some middle ground there where we all can sort of help each other out and benefit and stay afloat is really all we can try to do, I think, or all I can try to do.
Yeah. Did you guys have conversations internally over this past year about merch cuts? Have you had those conversations internally?
It was decided we would just keep doing it the way that we are doing it, you know. And
Yeah.
we will
Okay.
waive it if it's a smaller act and you know, and there's very little merch. We're not going to take everything. We collect taxes just because legally we have to do that. But no, I mean, we'll work with them if we have to, for sure.
Do you have merch sellers there, or what's the how does that work?
They provide their own sellers, or we'll provide them for them. But it's kind of
For a
like
fee?
no, not for a fee. I mean,
Oh,
it's theirs. Like they run their merch. We don't take inventory for them. We don't count the inventory when they leave. It's just like we trust them to run it and then be honest with us with what they sold.
right. If the artist requests a merch seller, you said you have some on
Yeah.
hand that can sell for them.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. I see that you have, I mean, something unique to Brooklyn Bowl, I guess, is you have bowling, and that is something that is consistent, I guess, all through all the Brooklyn Bowls, which is fascinating. Is it open during the daytime when you don't have shows, pre-shows, or is it just kind of an add-on to the shows at night?
It's an add-on to the shows, so you can see the stage where you are bowling. We have, I know, we have 2 levels here in Nashville. So we have 10 lanes on the first floor, 9 lanes on the second floor, and the designers, the architects really planned it so that you can have a perfect line of sight no matter where you're standing, but especially in the bowling lane. So we treat it like a VIP upgrade. We try to open sometimes for bowling, but it just really hasn't taken off. I mean, there's other bowling alleys in Nashville, so it's not really a thing.
Sure.
You know, we'll do family bowl on Saturday mornings and let people come and bring their kids, and then sound check starts happening at like 2 or 3 p.m. and they're blasting the music but families are in. But yeah, that's kind of cool. Yeah.
How do the artists respond to bowling happening during their show?
It depends. It depends. The pins are on strings, so it's a little quieter than a normal bowling alley. So it's not that loud racket.
Nice.
And, you know, we've done our best to soundproof that sound, you know, because it is about the music.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. There are some, though, that don't like it. And we've definitely had a few that will make comments from stage, especially like quieter acts, you know, singer-songwriter stuff. And then some just really love it, or they play it in Williamsburg and they just love the whole experience and they're used to it. So it depends.
Yeah, I guess if you're a quiet singer-songwriter, it's probably not the best idea to get booked at the Brooklyn Bowl, at any of the Brooklyn Bowls. That's not the vibe, probably.
We will stop bowling and we'll ask our, you know, the guests, say, hey guys, like the artist has asked us not to bowl. Do you mind? And we're happy to do that if they ask us to pause it. So no problem there.
Cool. Gotcha. And you have a restaurant too, and that is it open for everyone, or just kind of the people that are bowling?
Yes, it depends on the show. So if we have a sold out show and it's ticket holders only. However, if we've only sold 500 tickets, the restaurant is separate enough that we can just open it up to the public and you can come in without a ticket just to eat in the restaurant. So it really just depends, and we try to adapt and change. Every day's different.
I'm curious, what percentage of the business, the Brooklyn Bowl business, is restaurant versus bowling versus ticket sales?
Ticket sales, 90%.
Okay.
If that, yeah, it's most of it. Mm-hmm. We're a music venue first and foremost. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And when working with, I mean, so as your role as general manager, you're not doing much of the talent buying, right?
No, we have buyers specifically for that.
And that's, gotcha. And are they in-house or are they through LiveNation, you were saying?
Both. So
Oh,
yeah, both. We do have
gotcha.
a talent buyer here in house. We have one of ours when we first opened, or we first started to open in 2019 and getting ready for that. We did have our talent buyer in house, and he has since been promoted, and he's more of a consultant for us now, and he's on the LiveNation side, but he's like booking for like 5 other venues now too. So we're happy for him, but we still have an in-house buyer for the smaller shows.
Gotcha. And what do you mean by smaller shows?
I would say local shows, local DJs. We're still trying to do that whenever we can, and and
Mm-hmm.
and really just like be a part of the community. We don't want to be that huge venue that forgot about local artists, and me especially, since I'm from
Mm.
Nashville and grew up listening to music and going to small shows at tiny little divey bars. It's just really important that we keep that. And so, yeah, that's what we're doing whenever we can.
Cool. No, that's great, and that's really nice to hear. How does that work for local artists? I mean, 1,200 is a big room, especially for Nashville, when it's such an industry town. I mean, how do local artists? I mean, are there many local artists that can play Brooklyn Bowl and fill it?
No, but that's okay. We
Yeah.
can do showcases.
Okay.
And we even have touring acts that can't fill the room sometimes. So,
Sure.
it's just give and take here.
Gotcha. Talk to me about showcases, because that's a term that is kind of, I would say, foreign to the to most music markets outside of Nashville, LA to an extent, and maybe a little in New York. What do showcases mean?
So in one night we could have 5 different bands, and one could be hip hop,
Hmm.
and the next could be funk, and the next could be indie rock, and it's really just getting together whatever we can to whoever is going to bring out the crowd and can bring people out. And in one night maybe there's a theme too, we'll do that. But yeah, it's just bringing different bands together, and hoping that our production crew can turn over the stage in just a few minutes between bands.
How is that different from just like a 4 or 5 artist lineup, like a regular show?
um that's a good question. And I, I just, besides being local artist and a smaller, non-touring show, I think that's the difference. Just going to be smaller.
Are they ticketed?
Yeah, but we try to be reasonable. $10 or $15, depending on who it is and what it's for. Or
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, what's that?
nothing. I didn't say anything.
Oh, in my experience with showcases, I've seen they've been kind of like billed as industry showcases, and that they're either not ticketed, or the guest list is essentially kind of endless, and it's kind of billed as like, this is an industry showcase and every artist can, like famously in LA, one of the most well-known showcases here in LA, it's been going on the longest, is called School Night. And it is, it was started, gosh, maybe 10, 15 years ago by Chris Doritas, of KCRW and a few others. And it's been free for the most part, but you have to RSVP, but the artist guest list is like endless, and it's kind of this like, it's a night that it's a hang, and it's like that showcase, and other showcases that happen like at the Hotel Cafe or other venues in LA. It's kind of like, okay, yes, it's $10 to get in, but it's a showcase, and so it's like the artist guest list, whereas like a normal show would be capped at like 15 or 20 max. They're like, the entire room is guest listed.
Wow.
And it's just like that's kind of how it works here. I'm just curious if it's like that's what a showcase means out there too.
Well, here in Nashville, well, especially at Brooklyn Bowl,
Yeah.
our industry list and the
Yeah.
guest list is usually endless. because the industry,
Oh,
I
okay.
mean, it's everyone's in the industry.
Because you're an industry town.
Everyone.
Yeah. Sure.
So it's really hard to cap shows. I think 150 might be our cap as far as the artist list
Okay.
goes. And
Sure.
showcases aren't any different here either. So yeah,
Okay.
we'll definitely have a lot of people out from agencies or other venues or whatnot. Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Cool. What is kind of the now that you're, I guess, 2 years, just 2.5 years into this venture, I guess, with Brooklyn Bowl, and how's it going, and where do you see it moving in the future? And is this something that is now going to be a staple of the Nashville live music scene?
It's going well, I think. We are a cool venue in town. We are, and I do. It's real. Like I said earlier, it's really important that we do our best to take care of the artists that come in here. We try to be super hospitable to every single person and really, really, really take care of our guests and artists. So we really want to stand out as far as that goes. Um, it's it's been going well too, and I think that we are developing a reputation, or have developed a
Great.
reputation, for a place that takes care of the artist and patrons, and the community. But I just want to keep that going, and I would like to do more local shows when we can. We
Mm,
just want to. It's I think we're in a good place, and just to keep that momentum is really all my I want to do, as far as,
great.
yeah.
What do you mean by take care of the artist? What does that mean?
We have the nicest and most professional production crew ever, I promise. And I know everyone
That's
says
great.
that, but it's really, really important that anything that they
Cool.
could possibly want, they're going to get, and then we're going to kill them with kindness, and be super
Nice.
nice while we're doing it.
That's great to hear. That is not super common at music venues across the board, especially on the tech side. No offense to the front of house engineers listening, but my God, I don't know why the chips always land so dramatically on their shoulders that they hold for like endlessly. I can't tell you how many sound engineers, front of house engineers I've personally had to deal with that have just had a massive chip, and it seemed to try to make the artist's life a living hell through the evening from the moment they step foot into the venue. So it's nice to hear that kindness is prioritized there a little bit, and that you're making sure that ethos is kind of instilled in all the staff members. That's nice to hear. Then I'm sure that's very appreciated by the artist, because that's not, in my experience, super common. So that's great.
Thanks.
Nice. Tell me a little bit about the Nashville music scene. You've mentioned kind of the local artists a few times. For someone that's not from Nashville and doesn't really understand how Nashville works, from your perspective, what does that mean? Nashville local artists, the Nashville music scene. Yeah.
Well, it's not just country music. We definitely have
Okay.
a lot of rock, a lot of indie rock, a lot of hip hop is up and coming too. Um,
Mm,
and that's one thing that I think is the most misunderstood if you're not from Nashville, because you really think that it's all country and new country,
right.
and that's just not the case at all. It Everyone, however, plays music. Like, everyone is in a band, at least three or four, and are trying
Yeah.
to play somewhere, every night of the week. And when they're not
Yeah.
playing out, they're coming to shows to support their friends who are in bands too.
Hmm.
Um, it's great. It's a little community that, and it's wonderful. And I don't want to live anywhere else.
That's great. I'm curious what you consider a local artist of Nashville versus an artist who lives in Nashville and is not considered a local artist.
That is a tough distinction too, because I know I would consider I know a lot of people that do tour, and they're very successful, and they're blowing up on Spotify and everything else. But I don't know what the difference is. I mean,
Okay.
I don't know. They're in Nashville, so I guess they're local to me.
Yeah, I guess if they're touring arenas and they live in Nashville, they're still a local Nashville artist, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know
Okay,
either.
cool. Interesting. Okay. Nice. Well, yeah, so, of the artists that come through, I'm glad you made the clarification that it's not Nashville is not just all country, because I do think that is the misconception. Would you say that Brooklyn Bowl books a higher proportion of non-country or country, or is it just like pretty standard?
It's all over the place, but we book
Yeah.
a lot of indie bands, a lot.
Yeah.
And I don't think that there's
Yeah.
any sort of formula that our bookers are following. It's just how it turns out. That's just the way it is. And especially at the cap,
Sure.
like a 1,200 cap room this size, a lot of the bands that they're booking just happen to be indie artists. But no,
Yeah.
we do everything we do everything, all of it.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Nice. Well, Brenna, so what's on the horizon? What do you got coming up, and what are you most excited about in the Brooklyn Bowl Nashville world?
In just a few weeks, we have Bone Thugs and Harmony. I'm looking forward to that one.
Cool. That'd be great.
2 Nights of Dog Star,
Awesome.
which is Keanu Reeves' band. And that one
Okay,
is
fun.
Yeah, we're already getting fan mail for that, even though we've asked people not to send it to us. It's
Oh my gosh.
yes, a lot. But
Wait, literally, like fan mail, like physical mail is being sent to the venue for Keanu.
yes,
Whoa!
yes.
I didn't realize that was a thing. Okay, jeez.
They're excited. They're so excited to come.
That's funny.
Yeah, it's we've got some great stuff coming in the calendar. So yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Well, Sarah, thank you for taking the time to chat with me. I have one final question that I ask everyone who comes on the show, and that is, what does it mean to you to make it in the new music business?
Oh my gosh, I'm just super excited to be a part of the music community and be lucky enough to be around it every day. And I'm stoked, and I just wanna keep doing it as long as I can.
Awesome. Sarah, thank you so much. It's great.
Thanks, Ari.
Today's episode was edited by Mikey Evans with music by Grassroots District and produced by all the great people at Ari's Take.